So let's start this presentation with the true beginning. 1989, Tim Berners-Lee invents the World Wide Web. We're at Geneva, and that is a very nice starting point for us. By the way, can you see the sticker, "Don't turn the power down," it says, because if we had turned the power down, the World Wide Web would have just collapsed because it was on this hard drive. So this is a nice starting point for us because on that day, the analog media, which is television, radio, newspapers, had 100% share of the entire media ecosystem. We all know what's going on since then, so the analog media are substituted by digital media. And we also know that already since 2020, the digital media are ahead of the analog media. So I'm a media scientist. For me, the key question is, we know this is going to continue. So how is a purely digital universe going to look like? Now, that's a simple question, but it's not very simple to give an answer. And I'll tell you why. Because first of all, for instance, in a country like Germany, we have 16 million different offers, websites, apps, domains. And then all of you guys sitting here, you are using different devices. You have smartphones, tablets, desktops, laptops, and so on and so on. So in order to find out even what is happening today in the internet, we would have to bring all of that together. We would have to measure billions of views, impressions by the second, and then relate it to those 16 million different offers. It is a very hard task to do scientifically, and I'm super happy that we were actually able to do that for the first time. And this is the first worldwide, let's say, baseline measurement that shows holistic media usage for a whole country. And by the way, I always compare this to like a Hubble Space Telescope. If you want to have such a setup and you want to measure it, you can calculate a double-digit million euro amount for the, let's say, measurement process. So you will get one thing from me that you cannot get from anybody else, and that is an overview that shows a holistic distribution of digital traffic over all devices and all offers. And this following diagram, I could only hold my entire presentation with this single diagram, so I want to be absolutely sure that we all understand it completely. This is why I'm building this the diagram together with you. So we first look at the two axes. So we have the vertical axis and we have the horizontal axis. Vertical axis, you can see it's hundreds of millions of hours that a certain offer attracts during 1 month. And then on the x-axis, you see the rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can already imagine which one will be the biggest ones. The biggest ones are on the left, yeah. But I promise to you not a top 10 ranking, right? I promise to you full overview of the entire traffic, okay? So I'll open up the x-axis very far to the right. And now, on the next click, are you a little bit excited? Yeah? On the next click, I'm going to show you the full distribution of the entire traffic in the internet across all devices. And I'm going to click 3, 2, 1, click. And maybe you understand why I learned to present it this way, because when I started to do this presentation, the people would say, the clicker didn't work. I can't see the line. I can't see the line. Why can you not see the line? Because it's very simple. The line of the diagram is first equivalent to the y-axis and then to the x-axis. It's not visible. And so I know you have clever people today, but sometimes you have to make it very clear what that means. It means a few have everything, a lot have nothing. We have a few monopolies and we have a huge graveyard. A few monopolies and a huge graveyard. So as we now did this first full measurement of a whole country, we were able to do one thing. You know, we scientists are ridiculous people. We can calculate everything. And we can calculate the, let's say, relative concentration in markets. And you might know this now. Don't worry, I'm going to guide you through this. It is very easy if you follow me. You might know this value from distributions of income or wealth. It's called Gini coefficient, and it shows you equality or inequality. So I give you two examples. Imagine a country where every person has exactly the same money, the same wealth. Yeah? It's a Gini coefficient of 0, okay? It's an equal distribution. So the other opposite, if you imagine the biggest imaginable inequality, I'll pick one person, I'll pick you. You own everything, and everyone else owns 0, nothing. I'm sorry for you guys, 0, the entire country, nobody owns anything except you. You have everything. It's the biggest inequality imaginable, right? Gini coefficient is 1. So now we had the whole traffic measured, and we could calculate the Gini coefficient for the distribution of the traffic in the entire internet, and it is at 0.988. And I can tell you that as a scientist, I thought that it was a mistake. And you can bet that I was quite scared to publish this, so we have calculated this a dozen times. 0.988. So, if a few players have nearly everything and everybody else has nothing, that means a lot of areas suffer, and I'm going to show you some. So I'll start with the big publishing houses. You know, typically in the US it would be like New York Times, or in UK with the Times. So you have here the best of the best of the best of the German publishers. And you see, I've been zooming into this ranking. But you can also see that the graveyard already starts after like rank 12 or 15. So that doesn't look very good. Now we could say, of course, from a perspective of the year 2000, yeah, these are like these old media companies, they're going to go away, you know, creative destruction, they're the digital disruptors, you know, and so we put thousands of these digital disruptors and independent blogs and domains in a big bucket, and we look again at the best of the best of the best of the best, okay? Ready? And here you go, the best of the best of the best. And you can see I have to go much deeper in this graveyard now. Now, we could say, well, these people, you know, they're often idealists, like bloggers. They're maybe not organized. They didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have good agencies. But I show you now one party that has all of that. Lots of money. They have the biggest and best agencies in the world. Lots of perseverance. You know, they wanted to make this a success. And I'm talking about the big brand companies. They realized around the year 2000, wow, I can just get the domains to my brand, let's say coca-cola.com. I'm in touch anyways through my products with millions of people. I can just, you know, write on the product, visit us on coca-cola.com. I can link the entire advertisement to coca-cola.com. You know this much better than I do. It's called content marketing. And why was this so cool? Because all the traffic you get on the own brand domains is free. So you can guess that the big global brands, they have invested since the year 2000 probably 3-digit million euro dollar amounts to set up their own domains. And now let's look at, again, the best of the best of the best of the best. And Jesus, didn't work either. Now in Germany we have public service broadcasting. I can look at their offers. It's not better either. And I could now go on, I could look at e-commerce, and I could look at any market, and you would find the same picture. Of course, if a few get everything, everyone else nothing, no surprise. So now you should start thinking. Okay, you should start thinking. Because the market I've shown you is Germany, but we can go outside of Germany. Switzerland, Austria, France, UK, USA, Canada, Australia. All these markets, it's exactly the same. And it's the same for all different categories, fields, areas. So how is that possible? How is that possible that in the entire Western world, nobody is able to overcome this pull of the monopolies? And I like to say, you know, if it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it smells like a duck, talks like a duck. Maybe it's a duck. Huh? Because it's very simple. We don't have open markets. We don't have fair and free competition. It's as easy as that. Because fair competition for me looks like that. We have a 100-meter race, and all the runners start at the same spot, right? That's fair competition. If we are in the competition against the monopolies, they are allowed to start at meter 80, 90, and they will win the race again and again and again and again. It's no surprise because there's no fair competition. Fascinating is that we know exactly how the free markets and fair competition were stopped. So most of these points you might know. Network effects, of course, a network becomes the more attractive, the more people use it. It's very difficult to boycott it if all your friends are there. The second point is closed standards. Maybe you know open standards is the opposite because all of you use emails. It's no problem to share emails between different companies. Gmail, Yahoo, Web.de, doesn't matter. It's always the same open standard. Whereas in the platforms, they created these walls. The walls are closed standards, which do not allow you anymore to share content. And just imagine if you're a YouTuber, you have like 1 million followers. It's not easy to take the followers to a different network. Closed standards. The third point is that they took down outlinks. I will explain this with Instagram. Outlinks are the links that are leading you outside of the platform. So let's just imagine I'm having Instagram. I read this super cool article and I want to read it. But then I have to go, it's even saying that. Link in bio. So I'm going 3 steps, 4 steps into the bio. I have to open the link. And then maybe even I see the content, but then I think I'm outside of Instagram, but yet I'm still in the in-app browser of Instagram. I'm not out of Instagram. I stay within Instagram all the time. And this is what happens if you take down the outlinks. It's a little bit like, imagine you're going into a supermarket that has no exit. Yeah? You can't get out anymore. Point 4 and 5 go together. They don't pay money for the content. On top, we have massively privileged them because they don't have to take any liability. And point 6 is pretty worrying, actually. And I will explain this to you in depth because I think I would call this monopoly abuse. And how this works, we have also measured, interestingly enough. So you can see this here for all the big tech empires. And I will illustrate it to you with the one on the left, which is the ecosystem of Alphabet. In the middle, you see the Google search engine, the smaller bubble. And we can not only measure where is the traffic, but we can see where is the traffic going after the people have used such an offer. And we can see that the likelihood of a person going to another offer of Alphabet is twice as high after leaving Google as we should expect it to be. Twice as high, not 5% more, 10% more. They just double the traffic for themselves. Double the traffic. Now imagine you're somewhere out there. It doesn't matter whether you are the New York Times, whether you're a broadcaster, whether you are an NGO, a startup, or a global brand company. You have no chance to get the fair share of traffic that you will get because they own the gateways. If you own the gateways, you can just get the traffic to your own platforms. So that's why the internet is dead. And you can see what the internet was on the left-hand side, where you had the possibility to get traffic everywhere. And what happened to it is what we have on the right-hand side. The internet, of course, is still there. But by the mechanisms that I've just shown to you, the platforms have managed to suck the traffic out of the internet into the platforms, and now the internet is there, but there's no more traffic. So what I've shown to you up to now is not a dystopia. It's nothing that's going to happen in 20 years. This is status quo. By the way, it's not an opinion, it's mathematics. It's fact. But of course, we can now look a little bit into the future, and we have generative AI, and we know how can you best train generative AI if you have lots of data, lots of text, pictures, videos, and so on. Who has the most text? The platforms. Yeah? So this will dynamize the concentration process even more. So let's now look even further into the future. I said 2020 was the tipping point. By the way, 2023, digital media 61%. So what's going to happen? Analog media decreasing by the end of this decade to 25%, below 25%. Digital media going up to 3/4, right? And the big thing is that even if now we understand, Jesus, this is a problem, and even if we wanted to stop this today, we have no legislation in Europe that would allow us to do this efficiently. We would even have to start writing the legal text that would help us. And that's why it's a concern. Why is it a concern? So let's start with the most unimportant part of it, which is money. Yeah? Because money is not the most important thing in life. But let's just figure out how we're going to make money in a purely digitized world. You all know this funnel much better than I do. Do you realize that the offers of the tech players all take a position inside the funnel? So let's start from the very bottom. Transaction is Amazon. No way to get around Amazon. In the lower funnel, when people are already looking for a product, Google, next monopoly. Can't go around Google. You have to book Google, right? Then in the upper funnel, you have two types of media. The one is social media, Meta, 85% with Facebook, Instagram, and then you have YouTube for video. Now, just imagine, it doesn't matter what you're going to be selling in the future, if it's backpacks or if it's chairs or if it's fashion. How are you going to get transactions in the digital world if the funnel is run by monopolies? The monopolies can charge any amount that they want from you. And if you don't want to pay that, they will say, it's no problem. You don't have to go to Amazon. Go somewhere else. It's not a problem. But as said, this is just money, because there's things which are more important than money, and that is, for me, democracy. For a good democracy, what we need is, of course, free media. And we need journalists, and we need investigative editorial offices. What you see here on the right is nothing that is, again, a dystopia. It's the status quo from now. In the countries of the Western world, 80 to 90% of the entire digital investments go to the top monopolists. Thousands of other media companies have to live with the remaining 10 to 20%. And you can't finance journalism with that. It's going to disappear, and it's already disappearing since 10, 15 years, and we all know it. And the last thing, they will control what you see. They will control what you see. And just imagine a couple of years if like 80, 90% of the public, let's say, media sphere is controlled by 2, 3 companies. They can control what you see. And we have seen in the past how many scandals there were on manipulation where they changed the traffic according to their own advantage. So I'm a media scientist, and I look at this, I say, Jesus, we were supposed to have independent media, but these, if we have 2, 3 monopolies, it's not independent anymore. Of course, under the circumstances of monopolies, we do not have pluralism. Then do we have independence of the state? No, because the same companies, for instance, are running the servers of our governments. They run the clouds of our governments. We have big conflicts of interest on cybersecurity. Yeah? And then journalism. It doesn't matter if the journalism is privately funded or if it's publicly funded, because it's not visible. And I would say that in all Western countries, the status quo is anti-constitutional. Now, the topics that I've talked about are typically, let's say, new to most people. But then we have to add all the other topics on top that we already know. What am I talking about? Aggressive tax avoidance, fake news, hate speech, data surveillance, cooperation with US Secret Services, manipulation and blackmailing of journalism, science, intentional violations of the law, precarious working conditions, manipulation of elections, and I'm just wondering, like, why are we not getting it? And I have a hypothesis why we're not getting this, and I call it the ideology of the internet. Because if we listen to the people who are running these platforms, we quickly understand that they don't care so much about power or money. They want to create a better world. They want you to be part of their wonderful communities. Just join with your friends, families into these creative spaces that we created for you. And we care about freedom of speech. We want to give people a voice. It's about empowerment, diversity. It's so wonderful. We're an open platform. It's all transparent. And you have seen the monopolies. Do you know what they call them, the monopolies? We want to build a sharing economy. A sharing economy to do more good to the world. And we think, wow, this is so nice. These people, you know, what they it's all for free what they give to us. And if we would have to like imagine how they look like, we would, you know, think, oh, it's someone like this. And it's very obviously a masquerade. Yeah. And maybe we are not able to understand this, even though it's very, very obvious. So now, typically, when I do these presentations, at this moment, people are very depressed. Yeah? Are you also depressed? Yeah? So, but I tell you something now that you will not believe, but I will deliver on my promise, there's still a happy end to come. Because we haven't talked about one point. We haven't talked about one point, how can we solve this problem? Because we should have a lot of hope, because there's certain problems that are big problems for the world, and we have to solve them under all circumstances, but they are very difficult to solve. Climate change, we need to solve it, but we all know it costs a lot of money to solve this problem. Or I give you another example. The war in the Ukraine, probably hundreds of thousands of people have to die and sacrifice their lives in order to solve this problem. And we have a problem here, and it costs €0 or $0 to change it. Nobody has to sacrifice his life or break a leg or even hurt himself. So let's just imagine we do the following 5 things. We just imagine we do this, and we imagine how the internet will look after 1 or 2 years. So we do the following things. 1, we will say, hey, platforms, you have so many privileges, you can never intervene in outlinks. Outlinks must be allowed to anyone who's posting something on the level of headline, picture, video, yeah? So, you know, the traffic can actually go outside of the platforms. And you will not be allowed anymore what they are doing now. If you have the possibility to do outlinks, they reduce the visibility of the post with outlinks, yeah? They punish you. Not allowed anymore. So we open the outlinks, boom. The traffic can flow freely, and we have a completely different type of internet. Second, I just mentioned this, open standards. It's a tragedy for me as a scientist to see that in the markets where we have open standards, we have competition. I'll give you an example. We have an exception on the concentration in the email market. I can measure it in Germany. We have Gmail since 30 years, and we have strong competition. It's no problem. So open standards, that means we reduce the value of the platform, and we increase the value of the content, and it can move much more freely, also outside of the platforms. 3, we are going to separate the infrastructure and the content. By the way, you might know this. This was done many times in the past. So maybe you know the story about the Hollywood studios. In the past, they owned both the production of the films, the movies, and they owned also the sales channel, the movie theaters. And I said, no, this is not possible, because then, they can determine what is seen, so we will just separate that. And we will have, for instance, YouTube platform services and YouTube content services, two different parts of the business. And then I would say, can we have 90% market share on TV? Can we have a company owning the entire TV of a country or all newspapers? No. Why should we accept this for democracy-relevant digital media? And so we could say, hey, if that's the case, let's open these infrastructures. You have just seen it, and maybe if there's YouTubers out there that can make deals with YouTube, but like we did with telecommunications, you can have, on the same network, you have contracts with different types of companies. And maybe I make more money with another provider. Last thing. Until today, the platforms are allowed to monetize criminal content. They make money, they're allowed to make money with criminal content. So why don't we just say, at the moment where you monetize specific content, sorry guys, you can't say, I'm not responsible, then you're in. Doesn't affect freedom of speech at all. But once you start to make money, it's also your thing. And just imagine, are these measures crazy? I don't think so. And just imagine if we did this, how the internet would look like. In 1 or 2 years, the internet would be the internet of the society, of the people, and not the internet of a couple of tech companies. Because one thing is for sure, everyone's suffering under the same problems. I would describe it this way. You have 2 ways to die. 2 ways to die, 2 arrows. So the one way to die is you say, well, I go where the traffic is. So you go where the traffic is, you go with the arrow to the left, you go to the platforms, you are going to be the serf of the platform, and either you work for free or for hardly any money. 1/3 of all manufacturers are not making money on Amazon anymore. So that's one way to die. You can say, no, I don't want to go to the platform, I want to do my own thing. Do my own web shop or do my own content, do my own domain, and so on and so on. You go down right into the graveyard. So, and you can, of course, change strategies. First, you die this way, and then you die that way, or you can change from left to right. And it's the same for everyone. It doesn't matter, again, if you're a newspaper, if you're a blogger, if you're a creator, if you're a musician, if you are broadcasting, if you have trade and you want to do e-commerce, if you're a startup, if you're a medium-sized company, you have 2 ways to die. So I'm just wondering, how are we going to explain this whole thing to our children? They will say in 5, 10, 15 years, hey, daddy, mommy, you always said you are this cool digital expert. Did you not get what's going on? Because now, we are in this digital prison, and we only have those platforms. What are we going to tell them? And that's why I, as a scientist, I have taken the step, and I wrote this book. It came out 1 year ago, and I'm super happy that it sparked a huge debate in Germany about this problem. I think there were now 150 events linked to this book. It came out 3 weeks ago in English. And even in English, it's now even selling, even though nobody knows me out there. I'm donating the money from this book because it's not for me about making money. It's just for me serving one purpose. I hope that we are all waking up before it's too late. Because as you have seen, this is not going to take 20 years or 50 years. By the end of the decade, it's going to be too late to do something. So I hope that we're going to wake up and stop this. So thanks for your attention and have a nice day.
Stay with me. Don't go away. Don't go away.
Okay,
I have a few questions. I mean, come on.
Of course.
It was kind of scary, I have to say, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to be scared.
Huh?
The big picture is really super scary, but you gave us some advice. So I'm optimistic, and I'm going to think, okay, let's go for the advice.
All right.
How do we implement them?
Oh, we can start immediately, but it's frustrating for me because even now in Germany this week we are now deciding about a new media state contract. And we're not addressing those things. But at the same time, it's very difficult for politics to put up, to tackle these topics if we don't have a real debate. So the difference versus, let's say, climate change is we have a huge debate about climate change. Everybody, you don't have to even argue with it, because I think most of the people understand that there's a problem. We are more talking about how we're going to solve it. Whereas on this topic, we don't even have a debate. We don't even have a public sphere that, where all the people would say, hey, it's clear. So we are also talking to ourselves, so we have to talk about it, we have to bring it into the media, the journalists have to write about it before it's too late.
Okay, so first point is start the debate, then bring it to the politics, if I'm right, and then the legal.
Of course.
Okay, we have work to do, guys.
But the thing is, again, it's easy to fix if we want to fix it, because it's purely, by the way, the situation is created by our own wrong regulation.
Right.
Because if we say, in terms of regulation, we regulate you like an infrastructure. We regulate you like a telephone network. But hey, no problem, you can monetize content as much as you like. Then it's also just a pure mistake in regulation. So these monopolies are the outcome of a wrong regulation, and we just have to free those markets.
Well, but there's another question. Why isn't there more resistance to this? Why are we just like, oh, hi, it's so nice, welcome,
Because the thing is, under the circumstances of monopolies, you don't have a choice. So we are all in some way cooperating with them. It's not possible. Just take, if you're the New York Times, you also have to cooperate with them. So everyone is cooperating with them. So in a way, that because you're cooperating with them, you think, that's just the state of affairs as it is. And you're not questioning that it could be completely different. Where I would say, but please look at the big picture. Why do we want to live in this dependence?
No, we don't.
We
definitely don't want to. But okay, we need to start right now. But so that's the positive side. If we start right now, we can change the things.
Absolutely.
We'll keep that. Thank you very much, Martin.
Yes, thank you.
Applause, please.